Hello, my name is Rob, and I am doing a series called Social Bread, which talks about issues that are not as directly tied to environmental issues. Um, but there is a relationship to all issues in the environment. Um, Today, I will talk about several males and their policies supporting involuntary treatment, um, or a proposal to support involuntary treatment, what experts are saying, and why it is wrong. The Ontario big city males have a motion that supports using the notwithstanding clause um, to um, invalidate, infringe on the rights of unhoused people as well as people with addiction. I should also note that there are unhoused people that are not addicted, um, and house people that have addictions. Everyone has the right to make decisions for themselves, and people should not have their rights taken away. In addition, it is not effective treatment to have involuntary treatment. Um, so I will start looking at the articles. So the first article is called Brampton's Mail Call for Forced Treatment of People with Severe Addictions Incredibly Dangerous, say some mental health and substance use experts. Um, I should also put a content warning because the discussion uh, is sensitive. So there was an article by Manswandale Pondka in the Brampton Guardian. This article talks about Kathy Moland's son struggling with addiction. And um, how there was difficulty getting care, and he relapsed. Moland, in this quote, now Moland has dedicated her life to raising awareness about overdose crisis as both a grieving mother and dedicated nurse. And she says recent calls by the city of Brampton to implement involuntary treatment of people experiencing a drug crisis is the incorrect approach. This is from someone that lost a family member to the poisoning crisis. I've learned to use poisoning instead of um, the the drugs crisis because uh, to better reflect what's happening. And on October 3rd, the Brampton Mayor Patrick Brown, this is from the article, called for the provincial government to consider a pilot program in Peel Region allowing medical professionals to force those suffering from mental health, addiction, or brain injuries into treatment. This is concerning. Not only does it include people with drug addictions, but also people with mental health um, or brain injuries. Um, and then from the article, experts are saying that involuntary treatment is an ineffective approach. There was a study that Moreland cited in the Canadian Journal of Addiction, which examined effectiveness of involuntary treatment for individuals with substance use disorders. And the quote is, there was a lack of high quality evidence to support or refute involuntary treatment for substance use disorder. Um, and then there was a promise made by the British Columbia Premier David Eby on September 15th that would introduce involuntary treatment for people with severe addiction issues, mental health challenges, and brain injuries. And then Ontario's Mental Health Act already allows uh, people who are a danger to themselves or others um, into involuntary treatment, but it does not allow the detention for chronic situations after the situation has ended. So people are the constitutional right to freedom is being infringed on, as well as I believe the right to life, because Section 7, because people are more likely to die after involuntary treatment due to relapsing. I think there was another article that mentions that. Peel Region did not pass a motion calling on the province to implement forced treatment pilot project. The Mississauga and Caledon mayors expressed disagreement with it. However, an amended motion did pass. Um, and I think the mayor of Mississauga is part of the big city mayors of Ontario. There was references to a Swedish model, but there was a study from 2003 to 2019. Compulsory care for substance users in Sweden was associated with higher risk of substance-related deaths. Dr. Dan Robe, St. Michael's Hospital Chair in Mental Health and Substance Use at the University of Toronto, in this article, said the proposed intervention could be intentionally and incredibly dangerous. And then Robe co-authored a systematic review published in the International Journal of Drug Policy, which indicated potential harms and human rights implications. And there have been documented cases of human rights abuses in compulsory treatment centers around the world. This article says that the United Nations called for the closure of compulsory treatment centers in Asia and the Pacific region, citing these human rights violations, including forced labor and denial of evidence-based drug-dependent treatment. Um, like insane asylums come to mind as areas that have been operating and have had human rights violations, and they were not effective. Angela Wells, an Alberta resident and member of Mom Stop the Home, lost an 18-year-old daughter, Zoe, to fentanyl poisoning, and Zoe was involuntarily detained. So this is another mom. And I think the quote from this article is good. This was the beginning of destroying our relationship of trust with her. She had very difficult time trusting us after that. Quote, how else is anyone who is involuntarily put into treatment going to feel, whether they're 15 or whether they're 25? It's like the rug is pulled completely out from under you. And Wells has been raising her voice against involuntary detention. And it is people with drug addiction that we should be listening to, as well as people who have experienced losing family members. And then there's a quote about the police being an expensive way to connect with treatment. Incarcerating people for short stays is one of the key risk factors for overdose mortality. People are incredibly likely to die of an overdose after release from prison. Because in prison, they're probably not being treated, and if they are, it's only for a short amount of time. And it's involuntary. And the article says that, this is in a quote. Michelle Belloc said funding medical and mental health professionals should be answering the crisis calls. And she also said, involuntary intervention is a political play to disappear unhoused people from public sight in order to satisfy residents who raise complaints about them. Dr. Abe Odshorn, an associate professor at the Western University, said involuntary treatment is a backwards approach, and supportive housing is a more effective solution to the overdose crisis. And there's an embarrassing long list of people who are currently seeking voluntary treatment but can't get access to it. So that this is one mail and one article. Unfortunately, this is not the only mail supportive of involuntary treatment. So I will go to the next article. The next article is from the Windsor Star. And this article is called Mental Health Advocates Slam Wenzel's Male Support of Involuntary Treatment. Advocates in who is it by? It is by Madeline Mazak. Um, and then those from the article, advocates and legal experts who deal with mentally ill are expressing strong opposition to suggestion by Wenzel's Mail that involuntary treatment is a way to address a burgeoning mental health and addiction crisis in Canadian cities. Um, And then, quote, this was the law in the 70s and 60s where people were apprehended and locked away in institutions, and it wasn't working. And the total of rights and freedoms is there because we deal with fundamental freedoms of all members of society. Oh, sorry. That was a quote. I don't know why this is. Oh, here it is. And then there was a Facebook post mentioned in the article, so I'll look at that. And, well, with court cases, if a government loses the court case, people living in the jurisdiction of that government end up paying for that court case um, through lawyers' fees and etc. And if they lose, they have to either pay a fine or spend time changing legislation back so it doesn't infringe on the law. So there's an issue around that as well, time and resources. And it is clearly against the law to violate the Canadian Charter of Rights and Freedoms. Otherwise, they would not be wanting to use the notwithstanding clause. So back to the article. Other provinces have proposed similar legislation. David Eby and British Columbia, and what was it? Did I highlight anything else? And there was an article specifically about British Columbia, and this is what the mayor of Windsor said. Quote, I support Mayor Brown's perspective on this topic. The mental health and addiction crisis affecting streets in every Canadian city requires urgent attention, and I believe that expanding involuntary treatment options can be a vital part of that solution. Many individuals facing these challenges are unable to make sound decisions for their own well-being. Let's support them and in doing so strengthen our community as a whole. And the article is called Brampton Malls Forced Treatment for Addiction and Mental Health. So I disagree with Drew Dickens' arguments that people can't make decisions for themselves. And there isn't enough voluntary treatment spaces either. So I'll go to the next article. The next article talks about Pierre Poilievre and how he says that he will support involuntary addiction treatment for minors and prisoners, which is consoling as well. I don't know if I highlighted anything. Oh, I did. Um, I should say who the article is by. This is a CBC article by Kate McKenna, August 10th. It says civil liberties groups, including the Canadian Civil Liberties Association, have raised concerns about the prospect of involuntary treatment. They point out that the courts have established individuals have a total right to decline medical treatment, and people who are incarcerated have not lost their total rights. Protections. And then, quote, I would add that it's well documented within prisons that there's a lack of resources for voluntary treatment, so why not start there? Said Anis Bosialis McNichol, and the director of Fundamental Freedoms Programs at the CCLA. And then other premiers, such as the other um, politicians, such as the New Brunswick Premier Blaine Higgs, has refused to rule out preemptively using the Constitution's notwithstanding clause to protect any involuntary treatment law from a total challenge. So this is very concerning that people are willing to take away people's rights for political gain. Politicians. Um, and all rights all should be protected, because if they go after one group of people, who's to say that they won't go after another group of people later on? It's a slippery slope. So this article is in the Thai. It's called EB and Westad agree on involuntary treatment. Experts say they're wrong. And this article is by Michelle Gamage. And from the article, Conservative Party of BC leader John Westad and NDP leader David Eby both say they will introduce involuntary treatment for people who use drugs or have mental health issues. The Thais spoke with experts about how involuntary detention would work in practice. And then there's a quote, none of the party's calls to action address the toxic drug supply, which is the reason more than 6 people per day are dying in British Columbia, said Gillian Colla, assistant professor of population health and applied health sciences at Memorial University of Newfoundland. And then the prevalence of substance use disorder has remained steady over the last decade, according to Health Canada. So it's not that more people are using drugs today, but that more people are dying when they use drugs because of the unregulated supply is so toxic. So that's an interesting point that the article has just made. The drugs, they're steady, but they're becoming more deadly because of the poisoning. And then there's a quote, severe addiction is not a medical term. Substance use disorder and opioid disorder are. And it's important to use official terms when talking about policy. I agree with that. And there's a case that what's needed is investing in affordable housing and mental health services. I agree with that. There's an entire field of study uh, in medicine known as the social determinants of health, um, and housing is one of that. Um, yeah, that doesn't. Oh, and then involuntary treatment is putting the cult before the horse. British Columbia doesn't even have voluntary trauma-informed evidence-based treatment programs. So that's problematic, and I believe that's the same in Ontario. I don't know. And then the province needs to build out comprehensive and accessible systems of evidence-based home. And then residential treatment doesn't have stronger outcomes than community-based treatment, and abstinence-based approaches can increase a person's risk of overdose and death because a person's tolerance drops quickly. Yeah, a lot of people don't consider tolerance when going into treatment. Um, and then those issues around the constitutionality and legal challenges. Um, and then people can already be detained under certain circumstances, but not indefinitely. And people with brain injuries can still make decisions about their own care. And did I? Oh. And then there was more people detained than when they had a site at Riverview, um, which was a psychiatric hospital, which was an interesting fact. Um, People often complain about the lack of psychiatric hospitals, or what people have referred to as insane asylums. And then people in Hill ended up being transferred. Um, so I want to go to the next. The next item. Um, let's see. I'm just getting it up. This article is called "Time for Province Feds to Take Encampments Seriously," said Barry Mail. And this is by Bob Broughton. And then did I highlight anything? I'm not sure if I highlighted anything. But the motion also talks about that big city Ontario big city mayors are going to vote on the 18th. Talks about encampments. Hopefully, I have enough time to make a separate video. But they want to clear encampments, even though it violates people's rights to life. And people often don't have adequate alternatives that meet their individual needs. There's been, I should say that there's been court cases uh, in Kingston and Kitchener regarding um, encampments as well. So we'll go to the next item. So this is. I just want to see if it shows. Okay. Hopefully, I'm able to play a clip from a committee meeting. I should see when the committee meeting happened. It was on the September 16th. This is the mail of Peterborough, Jeff Leo, defending involuntary treatment. There was no vote on this, but the comments are all concerning. There has been some reporting on this through the um, the Trent radio journalist has done reporting on this. But I'll show the clip.
Transition from modular homes into supportive housing into regular apartments. So that's why I think we really need to keep the option of extending Wall Street to see how these other critical developments are going to roll out over the next little while. The federal budgetary officer, who is a nonpartisan a civil servant, recently, if you take the time to read his analysis on the situation of homelessness in Canada, he has indicated, Mr. Chair, that it would take $3.5 billion in each of the next 3 fiscal cycles to reduce homelessness by 50% from C to C to C. So I think his analysis clearly shows the challenge that all 444 municipalities are currently facing. You've also seen, I think, that something the Ontario government needs to look at. Just yesterday, the Premier of British Columbia, David Eby, announced that because of escalating toxic drug crisis and mental health in British Columbia, that they were going to provide involuntary warrants. They're taking 400 beds that were formerly used as acute care beds in British Columbia, turning them into treatment capacity to put people in that, frankly, as he said, can't make decisions on their own. Public safety is becoming a huge issue in British Columbia. So he is moving forward in a pretty dramatic fashion to look at public safety and solving this. And those are the discussions that we need to have with the government of Ontario and the government of Canada, because there clearly is a need for critical treatment capacity. So, Mr. Chair, that'll be my comments for the time being, and perhaps I'll have a second opportunity.
Thank you very much for that, Mayor Leal.
Yeah, so, what did I do? I'll go to just my face. So that was a concerning statement from the mayor of Peterborough. There was a second statement regarding involuntary treatment. And it goes against the evidence that involuntary treatment doesn't work, is ineffective, and those human rights abuses. Um, there wasn't a lot of coverage that I saw um, regarding this. Um, um, so I will go to the next item. Transition. Oh, I will go to. So this is uh, a statement from Olivia Chow regarding um, her opinion on supporting a motion from the Ontario Big City Mayors. I don't know what the motion says exactly. I just know that it says supporting clearing encampments or the ability and involuntary treatment. They're asking the provincial and federal government to pass regulations or legislation regarding that. So I will play the clip.
Just say that's it. Let people sit there in traffic all day long. Who cares? It's costing us $11 billion. That's the worst decision. Even if we do a little bit at a time and keep the machines on the ground, that's what we should be doing. Never ever stop building. Never ever stop.
Oh, I should note that this is at a conference regarding the construction of the Ontario line in Toronto, and CPAC is doing recording this news conference live. A journalist is about to ask a question.
Drilling.
Hi, Premier. Good morning. Barbara with QP Briefing.
Hi, Barbara.
I wanted to ask you about homeless encampments, and Mayor Chow, if you want to share your thoughts on this as well. The Ontario Big City Mayors are considering a motion asking both the federal and the provincial governments to give municipalities the power to deal with these encampments as they find appropriate. Pretty much they are saying they need more help to dismantle these encampments and shift the people living there to supportive housing. What do you think of this request, and will the province be on board with this plan?
I think it's a great request. I've had an opportunity to speak to a lot of the large city mayors. There's 21 of them, and I haven't talked to all of them, but I'll tell you, they're all fed up, and all the power to them. However we can help them, that'd be great. But let's look for root cause, right? We need to shelter these people. Once they get in a shelter and they're healthy, then we can get them gainful employment, and they get on their feet and they start moving forward like everyone else. Do you know what's tougher than even what they're facing? Imagine coming to a country you don't know the language, you've landed here, and you're having a real tough time. That's a challenge, but guess what? There's millions of people in this province that have done exactly that, have come with nothing but the clothes on their back. They work their backs off, save enough money to get a rental property, live there, and eventually save money and buy a home. There's millions of stories like that.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, go ahead.
Oh, I will also say that Doug Ford's comments about unhoused people, um, like they're problematic on their own. for different reasons as well. Uh, they're all unhoused people that do walk, and a lot of unhoused people have disabilities, and disability payments are inadequate. Um, so that could be an entire video by itself. Uh, how the OW and ODSP treatment, OWSP system is inadequate for people with disabilities, and how the comments are inappropriate as well as inadequate. And also, there is a lack of shelter spaces that meet everyone's needs. But yeah, that could be an entire video.
I support the big city mayor's caucus in their request. I am on their WhatsApp group, OBCM 2024, and I'm very familiar with the challenges everyone is facing, whether it's London, Ottawa, Toronto, Mississauga. Just the encampments is a cause of, because we have a housing crisis, as I answered the other question earlier. To stay in a shelter is about $7,000 a month in terms of the cost, whereas the housing benefits supporting folks that are homeless to find a place, or they might be in a shelter of their own, that they could have permanent residence, is only about $1,000 a month. So it's actually financially and more effective, and also much better for people to be in a home, not in a shelter. People don't want to be camping. They don't want to be outside. They don't want to be soaking wet or cold or very hot. They don't, that's not, or not safe, because they don't have a place for their possessions, right? They don't have a place. And some of the neighborhoods are being impacted tremendously because of the encampment. So,
Yeah. So, there was Olivia Child neglected to mention that there's some people that don't have other options, and this, if you clear an encampment all the time, you're going to get people less trustful of municipalities, and people are going to go further and further into contaminated sites, increasingly contaminated sites, and that's problematic. And it's um, let's see. Yeah, that's problematic. So yeah, I hope that. Oh, and I should also say that some people have service restrictions, or their needs are not being met at shelters. Um, yeah, so I hope that this has um, encouraged you to oppose involuntary care and forced in, displacement of encampments. Um, and yeah, I hope that you write to the Ontario Big City Mails by October 18th. to pose this motion. And on October 24th, the public will know the results of that motion. Anyways, thank you for listening and enjoy the rest of your day.